Hey, how's everybody doing today? I hope that you've had another wonderful day. We had talked yesterday about today's the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Today I wanted to talk to you about a little something different. I don't know if you have a Bible nearby, but if not, you can always look it up. But I want to read a small excerpt to you from 2 Corinthians chapter 12. We'll start at verse 6. It says, "For though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool, for I will say the truth. But now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that he heareth of me, unless I should be exalted above measure. All through the abundance of revelations there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, and that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in my infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong." So I wanted to talk to you today about the thorn in the flesh. Sometimes, we, some of our friends and some of our families might see us as somebody, bigger than what we would like for them to see us as. And that's kind of what Paul was talking about there in verse 6, about how, he doesn't want to glorify in himself or to glorify in anybody else except for God. And he doesn't want the glory for himself. He wants everybody to see him as what he is, and that's the man. We can easily try to build up a name for ourselves, to make ourselves look better than we are, and try to have the nicest things, the riches and all of that, and try to seem to be the biggest and best that we can be. But in all reality, all glory deserves to go to God. Everything we've been given, everything that we've earned is just borrowed from him. And the world is his, and the fullness thereof. And if that's the case, then everything that we've been given still belongs to God. We've just borrowed it. But let us not think that we're greater than we are. Let us not try to paint a picture of somebody bigger for people to look at and to let's not try to be high above everybody. Let's try to love each other. And Paul is writing in verse 7, he says, I was given a thorn in the flesh. Sometimes, we often read this scripture as Paul's just gotten this thorn in the flesh, something that's hurt him, something that's bothered him, but Paul doesn't just necessarily call it that. He doesn't call it, oh, I've been stuck with the thorn, or I've just gotten hurt, or this hurts so bad, I don't know why I've got this thorn, or I don't know why I'm sick. I don't know why I'm struggling. I don't know why I'm going through the burdens I'm going through. I don't understand. He doesn't say that, but what he says is, I have been given this. Sometimes we don't understand why we struggle. We don't understand the problems. We don't understand why we're sick. I talked yesterday about my parents having cancer, and right now my wife's going through some tests and stuff to maybe see if she has lupus and stuff, and it's kind of got us stressed a little bit. But at the same time, I look at myself and I think, I've got carpal tunnel and I've got some other problems, and some of my problems are not near as big as some other ones, and sometimes I get some financial stress and things like that. But to me, these are just little thorns, just little bitty aggravations, little bit of annoyances. And so I know a few of y'all have had that same experience, the sicknesses in your body, in your family, child getting hurt, or maybe some other struggles that you might have had. But at the same time, we all consider these thorns, and sometimes we like to blame God. But what if we looked at it more of a gift? What if we could say that I'm going through the burdens I'm going through so I could help somebody else, and that somebody else can see that I'm a person too. Paul said, I don't want you to see me as somebody big. He said, I want you to see me that I'm a person too. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about that you are a person too. I'm a person too. I can get on here and minister to you, preach to you, try to inspire you, but unless I'm real with you, then that I've not accomplished anything. And so I want to talk about, some of my thorns in my life, and maybe it'll help somebody else with a thorn in theirs. Paul was saying he was given a thorn in the flesh. He prayed 3 times that God would take it away, and neither time did God answer, but God spoke to him instead and said, "My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." So Paul goes on to write, he said, I can go through persecutions, I can go through sicknesses, I can go through trials, I can go through troubles, I can bear my thorn if it brings glory to God, because when I'm weak, he said, I have found out that I am actually made strong. Later on, Paul writes that he can do all things through Christ who strengthens him. He realizes that he's not perfect. He admits that he's not a perfect man. He admits that he has faults. He admits that he has a thorn in his side. It's a thorn that nobody else knows about. Nobody else ever seen before. Nobody's called Paul out on. Nobody's paid attention to the thorn because what a man of God he is. But Paul says, I've got a thorn. I'm not perfect. I've got a thorn. I've got a good job. I work every day. I get to go and work. I get to provide for my family. I get to help them out. I've got a home to live in. I've got a couple of cars that I can drive. I've got a cell phone that I'm recording on right now, and I've got blessings. I've got a church that I pastor and plenty of loving members, and what a great church family I get to go and evangelize. I get to do many different things, and it's awesome. But at the same time, in the middle of it all, people don't know that I have a thorn in my flesh. They don't know where I've been. They don't know what I've had, and they don't. A lot of people don't realize that I've had, a diagnosis of OCD. They don't realize that that things really stress me out when it's not perfect, and that I can get my nerves tore up. They don't understand that. They don't realize that, because it's something that you just don't talk about. People don't know that you have a thorn all the time, and some of the things that people don't know about me, and maybe you're there too, is before I became a nurse, and before I had gone back to school, and before I had become a pastor, before children, before a family, I was told before my past, because I had messed up in a school program I was in. I'd messed up, and people told me I was a failure. I wouldn't get a good job. I was a failure. They told me I was worthless. They told me that I was a waste of time. And in my heart, I believed that. In my heart, I believed that, because I'd failed at some things, that I'd always be a failure, and that I would never be anything. And over the years, I kind of accepted it, and didn't want to try harder, didn't want to push harder and things. And you just kind of, I know I'm not the only person that's ever felt like they were a failure or a waste of time. I don't believe that I'm the only person that struggled with that. I don't think that I'm the only person that's let negativity bothered me. I don't think I'm the only person that's ever struggled. And so that was one of my biggest thorns in my life, was being told that I was worthless, being told that I was a waste of time, being told I was a failure and would never have a job, never get to be somebody, and now I can look back, and I can thank God that I didn't let that stop me, that I didn't let it keep me down, that I didn't let it persuade me to give up because everybody else thought that I should, and maybe a kid might be watching this, maybe you're getting bullied and stuff. I got bullied in school. I got picked on. I wasn't a big guy. I wasn't the strongest, wasn't the most athletic and things. It wasn't the most wealthy, and so I got picked on. But God brought me through that. I found the friends that I needed. I ignored the bullies. I may have gotten into a few fights, and everybody kind of has. But what I want to tell you is that no matter who bullies you and puts a thorn in your life and in your side, God wants to use your weakness to make you strong. If you're suffering with depression, anxiety, OCD, you're not the only person. You may be feeling like you've got to hide it, but you're not the only person. You're not the only person that's ever had those struggles, that has ever had to face a battle or fight a fight. And I want you to know that somebody is here for you, and I'd be more than willing to talk to you on here, and I'd be more than willing to shine a light to you. I'd be more than willing to say that God makes His strength perfect in your weakness. If you just trust in Him, just rely on Him, just Rely on Him. He doesn't always take away the thorns. It doesn't always get easier. It doesn't get easier every night whenever you think about somebody who's called you weak and called you a failure, and when somebody's talked negativity into your life, it doesn't get easier. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't, laying awake at night thinking about it, it doesn't feel good. Just knowing that you've been talked about, knowing that people have made fun of you. People used to make fun of me all the time because I was too fat. When I lost weight, then I was too skinny. They thought I was anorexic or something. And so nobody's ever going to think that you're perfect. Nobody's ever going to completely think you're this perfect person, and if they do, then they've seen you at your best of times. They've not seen the struggles when people have called you fatty and stuff like that, and when people have called you sickly and all that stuff. They've not seen you at that times, and we'll do all sorts of stuff to our body to try to keep people from picking on us and from calling us names, and we'll take that diet pill. We'll do whatever we can just to lose a few extra pounds, or we'll try and push our bodies beyond what they should be pushed just to try to make somebody else happy. And the thing is that's a thorn in our side. And but I want to tell you today that God, I had mentioned yesterday, God works things together for our good. And even though the thorn hurts, even though the names hurt, even though people will judge you, people will talk about you, they're going to anyway. You're going to hurt anyway. You're going to have bad days. You're going to be having days where you feel like you're a nobody, where you feel like you're just a waste of time. And there's going to be days when you really start to let that sink in, and that you really start to believe like that about yourself. But here's the thing, is that thorn is a gift. It's a gift that I'm using today. I'm using my thorn to witness to you, because maybe you've got that thorn too, and you've just not talked about it with nobody. You've not sought help. You've not talked to God about it. You've just accepted the thorn as a painful part of your life. Maybe somebody's been abused. Maybe somebody's been talked bad about, but maybe you just need to know that sometimes the pain of the thorn doesn't get easier, but if you'll let God help you in that weakness, He said that His grace is sufficient for you. That means His love and kindness, His mercy, His peace, His joy, His love, His life. When I think of grace, I think of happiness, and I see that God's every intention of happiness, every source of happiness, He said that it's sufficient for you. He didn't just say it's sufficient for me, or sufficient for another pastor down the road, or the singers. He didn't say that it's sufficient for the Christian. He didn't just say it's sufficient for one person. He said for you. His grace is sufficient for you. He's got enough happiness for you. He's got enough love for you, enough mercy for you, enough forgiveness for you. He's got that for you. And if you'll accept Him today, if you'll just accept that promise today, that He's more than enough, then His strength will be made perfect in your weakness. Where you feel hopeless, where you feel worthless, where you feel like a waste of time, God looks at you and He says, hey, I didn't create you for nothing. He looks at you and said, I love you. I sent my Son to die for you. He bore His stripes to heal you. He took the pain of being a man so He can feel what it is for you to go through today, And so think about it like that. Think about the fact that He loves you so much that even in your darkest hour, when you feel like you're a waste of time, man, He sure took the time to form you. He sure took the time to wake you up this morning, to watch over you. Isn't it amazing that God even says that He bottles up your tears, and that He knows the number of hair on your head, and that He thinks about that. He worries about that. He's got everything going on in the world. He's got a world, an earth that's flying around at so many hundreds of thousands of miles an hour, and yet it doesn't collide with another planet. That at any moment that He could just stop the world from moving, and that you would just fly off the face of the world. But yet he tends to control that. He tends to catch the falling stars. He tends to keep the planets in orbit. He tends to not let the sun fly into the earth, and vice versa. He chooses not to do that. He's got all that. He makes sure that the trees put out the oxygen they need, and that nitrogen from the waste and the little dead animals and stuff that they come up and they supply the nutrients to the world. He makes sure that we have enough water in our bodies to keep us alive. He makes sure of all that stuff, and yet all in the middle of him having to think about this, he thinks about the number of hair on your head. It's crazy. It's wild to know that and to believe that, and His gospel is not to be ashamed of. It's our power of salvation, and it's awesome to think just that His word is our power, and just that by us praising Him it makes us more than overcomers by the word of our testimony, and so I mean you're more than an overcomer. If that means that you're more than an overcomer, it means you've passed your trial and you've got enough to give back to somebody else. We've got our thorns. They hurt. But God wants to be made strong in your thorn. So in your trials, in your persecutions, in your distresses, like verse 10 said, therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So he's saying I may be in infirmity, I may be sick, I may be weak, I may be struggling, I may be reproached, people might be talking about me, people might be judging me, people might be making fun of me, people might be doing all this stuff. And he said that also I've got needs. I've got to have financial needs, I've got to have food on my table, I've got to make sure my bills are met, I've got to make sure that I've got enough to supply for my family, to clothe my family. I've got to make sure that my house is done. I've got to make sure that everything's fine. I've got to make sure that we stay in the car and that we keep gas to get to work. I've got to make sure everything is going great. He says, but I've got necessities. I've got things I need. I've got things that I struggle with. I do too. I believe that you probably do. I believe you probably worry about it. I've been persecuted. I've been talked about. Everybody has, if I grow a beard out, people's going to talk about me. If I shave it off, if I shave my head or whatever, people's going to talk, and it's okay. It's okay. People are going to persecute you. There's different denominations, different beliefs, and some believe in other ways than other people do, and so everybody's always going to judge somebody else. It's not supposed to be that way, but it's the truth. We got too many people judging and not enough people lifting up. But in my persecutions, in my distresses for Christ's sake, when I get through struggles, when I get distressed, when I get downhearted, man, for His sake, for when I am weak, then I am strong. He said I take pleasure in that stuff. Man, instead of complaining about your thorn, see it as a gift. Thank God for your thorn. Thank God for the pains. Thank God for the hurt. I know it sounds stupid, but because of that, if you've ever been bullied, you can help somebody else who's being bullied. If you've ever been through financial burdens, you can talk through somebody through that. If you've ever had a family member who's sick, you can be there and pray for somebody and lift somebody up. If you've ever gone through any of these things, you've been given a thorn for a reason. It's a gift. It's a gift that you can bless somebody with. I'm hoping today that I've touched somebody that felt like they're worthless and that they're a waste of time. And, you can be somebody. You're not worthless. You're not a waste of time. You're not a joke. You're not a mistake. You're none of that. You're none of that. You're none of that. If you've been given that thorn today, thank God for your thorn. Because in your thorn, you're made strong. And with your thorn, you're going to make somebody else strong. May God bless you and keep you always. I love you, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching.